Now, I'm very happy to welcome back a college football and horse racing expert that you've heard here many times. You know him on ESPN's College Game Day and the Stanford Steve and the Bear Weekly College Football Podcast. I'm very excited to bring Chris Fallica back to break down a massive couple weeks here of bowl games, some college football playoffs, Christmas, everything's happening. You can follow Chris at Chris Fallica on Twitter. Merry Christmas, Chris. How
Same
the
to you.
holidays? Thank you. How's the holidays treating you so far?
We're well, other than the Chargers screwing me last Thursday in that NFL game, we've been okay. NFL's actually been really good, which is ironic, being that a lot of my college football picks haven't been superb. But yeah, we got there last night with San Diego State, which was nice. And it's just so hard to play some of these games just because of you don't know who at the very last minute might either opt out or the COVID. The bowls are hard enough trying to play the opt out game. Now with the COVID game in there as well, it makes it even harder. So it's a situation where a lot of times you just don't be so excited about making a large pregame wager well in advance. You really do have to wait and show patience and restraint and figure out how close you want to cut it. And sometimes live betting is the best way to go. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. If any other teams besides Texas A&M decide to opt out, I know Miami has an outbreak, but I heard it's not as bad as what happened to Texas A&M. But we'll see if there are any other teams out there that might get caught in a bet situation. It's funny because that actually caught. Speaking of bets, when do you want to bet? What do you want to bet? The other day, I bet at DraftKings an ACC win total under 5.5 in bowl season. Now with Wake Forest not playing Texas A&M, that bet is kaput because Wake Forest doesn't have an opponent, and if they do, it'll be a different opponent than the one listed. So again, I guess worst case you get a refund, but at the same time, we were looking forward to a bet like that.
Well, yes, I guess that could be worst case, but even worse, they lose their quarterback and decide to play anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
You're on that side of it. So great call there. The approach is way different here with the turbulent times of COVID. And it's not like players were opting out like this 5 years ago anyway. It's more prominent now. Injuries are a bigger thing. There's bigger contracts. There's more agents involved, especially nowadays with it legal to hire agents and start making money. So what would you say, like how many days before in general, I know it's different, would you recommend them placing a bet?
I guess it's probably just going to be a different rule for everyone, just based on your comfort level of the number that you have weighed against the what if worst case scenario. Would you be happy still with that number if things go bad? Would you be in a position where you can get off the bet in some scenario? Like right now, I bet San Diego State as an opener. I bet Oregon State as an opener, and those are the only two like openers that I bet because those were two games that I felt pretty good about. Oregon State didn't show up after the first drive, and San Diego State wound up being the right side. This was before I got any wind about UTSA and the players not playing. So it's hard. Like before the bowl season, I wouldn't have thought that Missouri would be a side that I would be interested in. I thought I would have been all over Army in this game, but now I just it's 6.5 and being able to buy it up to 7 for a couple extra cents. Like I took a shot with Missouri tonight, just because I think at quarterback it's at worst probably a lateral type move. Like I think Cook, his ability to run, he's got some better legs, so that might help the Missouri offense some. I know they're down Beatty and some other guys, and that could be a big deal, but they're still out that'll be better than Army. And I think the backs that are going to replace Beatty, they use that as an opportunity to kind of foreshadow next year and maybe get a leg up for the spring. Eli Drinkwitz is probably going to have a little bit of a he's an edgy guy, so I can see Missouri coming out and being ready for this game against an Army team that didn't show me a whole lot against Navy.
Oh, look at that. Right off the bat, we're talking about Army, Missouri. Love it. And this spread went down, and I don't agree with that necessarily either. I mean, the total went down is what I'm trying to say. It was like at 58, and now it's at
people see quarterback and Beatty being out and realize that the quarterback there is probably inconsequential. Beatty is, but at the same time, Army's just going to hold the ball. Well, Missouri could score every time they touch the ball potentially against that Army defense.
Are people forgetting Army versus Wake Forest this year?
Mm-hmm.
That could happen. And that went to 120 points.
Yes.
I mean, geez, you only have 53.5 to play with. I'm going to have to make another play. I made a small play in the over, and I lost value. I really do on these types of situations, but I'll probably myself take the over again. Now, I agree. I think it's funny. I used to say bet the unders because usually it's offensive players that opt out, but I'm starting to see defensive players opting out too, man. I think if you want to bet a school, and I mean, that's hard again too. It's like, why would you take the dog? I guess if the bigger school is got some 4 or 5 star guys, or even just 3 stars that turned out really good, that could screw up your plus money. Maybe it's a +8 right now, and it's going to go down to +6 when they opt out. So I guess the smaller school, maybe you can go a little bit earlier in general is the only rule of thumb. But I think 2 to 3 days, because if you like a favorite, that thing's going to move away from you on that last day. And if it's a dog, definitely 2 or 3 days is probably what I'm looking at here. So you gave me a pretty good cheese recipe for Christmas, and I'm going to use it, man. It's the cheese ball. I'm going to the store later today or tomorrow, and why don't you share that recipe?
Well, here's the thing, Kiev. I went grocery shopping yesterday. I guess there's some like cream cheese shortage like going on. Like there was not like stores are having like trouble. I don't know what it is, but I came back and said to my wife, "Oh yeah, I got pretty much everything. I didn't get cream cheese. There was no basil." She's like, "Oh, cream cheese, I guess you can't find anywhere." I'm like, "Huh?" So I guess there's like a cream cheese type shortage. So I don't know. I don't know what it is, but if you can find cream cheese, good luck to you. And it's simple. It's cream cheese, dried beef, half a can of dried beef, block of cream cheese, some scallions, blend it together, use it as a dip for Triscuits or carrots or celery, whatever you want. It sounds like it would be not very good, but it is just salty, cheesy goodness.
I love salty, cheesy goodness.
As do I. And the other one I gave you is something you put in the you bake it. It's basically a combination of Gouda, Brie, Gruyere, and mozzarella. You just kind of put it in a little oven safe dish, bake it, stir it for a little bit, stir it around, make sure it gets blended, and then you put it back in with some panko on top of it. And again, usually that's more of a cracker type dip than anything else. But yeah, there's my Christmas hors d'oeuvre contribution for you.
Well, you're gonna have to tweet that thing out, man. That looked delicious when you sent me a picture of it. I'm telling you, I'm a fan already, and I can't wait to try the cheese roll. I'm gonna do the cheese ball now. Cream cheese shortage. You're getting me a little worried here.
As am I. The good thing is, hopefully tomorrow, because I'm gonna go out and get some bagels tomorrow just to have in the house for Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So if worst comes to worst, hopefully the bagel place has some cream cheese that they can sell me that I can use for my cheese ball.
Yeah, well, thank God you didn't say beer shortage. Or I would have to end the podcast and ran right away to make sure we're all right here for
podcast over.
Well, awesome stuff, man. Let's get going here. It looks like we're already going to play, or Chris is on Missouri. I've got some line value on Army, and I was seriously considering a buyback here with Missouri here, being it's going to hit a key number of 7 like that. That thing has moved, and it's a good case you can make. Army hasn't stopped a lot of teams. You saw even Navy when they even knew what was coming. be able to score enough on them. And Navy's been a terrible team. I wouldn't be shocked if Missouri got in the 30s.
I wouldn't either.
Absolutely not. So great stuff there. Well, let's start kind of like on a day-by-day thing. Kind of see if you like any of the games there, and I'll say if
I'm going to give
games.
you a little bit of a tease and say that I don't like a game until the 28th. So if you've got something over the next week or so, here's the problem. I liked Georgia State on Christmas Day at 4.5 or 4, like it was, and now that it's up to 6, I can't play it at 6, being that I already played it at 4.5. So
well, that's great to talk about then. So it's saying that the line moved away from you, and that's important because numbers matter an extreme amount here when it comes to sports betting, and especially when it comes to smaller spreads. It's going to be a close game. Yeah. So for me, I'm passing this game too. My power ratings actually say Ball State, but the metrics scream Georgia State, man. They have a 0.6 net yard per play advantage. Ball State ranks 92nd in EPA margin. Georgia State ranks 62nd in EPA margin. That's an advanced statistic that we look at.
Yeah.
I just see that this metrics really, really favor Georgia State here, and my power ratings didn't. So it got away from me too. I think at 4 would have been a better for sure. So that did move away. Well, that covers Christmas. So bah humbug.
And the thing is, too, the other thing, which again, you don't want to overreact to what you've seen in bowl games thus far, but look at the point totals that some of these MAC defenses have allowed so far. Well, what did Wyoming put up yesterday? 52. Eastern Michigan allowed 59 or something. Toledo allowed 31, 34. Northern Illinois allowed 47. So these MAC defenses have been terrible. So that might be another notch in the Georgia State belt as well.
Well, that's true. And what's funny is I'm going to give you one on the 27th. There's nothing on the 26th here. And that's because NFL Sunday. And so the 27th, this is an interesting situation here with Nevada. I got a much better number than it's out.
So you basically got Western Michigan, right? We kind of got maybe wind about the Nevada stuff early, because I know a lot of people that hit me up early and said that Norvell's gone and Strong and some players are going to opt out. And this was when Nevada was still favored. So if you got Western Michigan at plus 3.5, God love you, because you're in a great spot right now.
I got plus money on it, let's say. It's not quite the 3.5, but definitely plus money. And it's 7 now. I think it's kind of creeping back a little bit. There's no way I could bet Nevada.
No, not now.
Here. I mean,
especially gaming Detroit too.
Yeah. They took all their coaches with them. It's like a home game for Western Michigan. Now, Western Michigan, I think they had higher expectations, but that ended early enough. I don't like betting on teams that had expectations all the way to the very end. I think if they, every team wants to win their conference, but Western Michigan's died off earlier in the season when they started losing. Now,
you beat Pitt and lose to Ball State, right? What a season!
Jesus Christ, what happened with that? Pittsburgh, what happened with? I'm still trying to figure.
I had Western Michigan that day.
Oh, fantastic! Well, that was a great bet. That money line must have been good. I don't know if you sprinkled, but
no, I didn't go money line. I just
okay.
I just took. I think it was like 13.5 or something.
Yeah, it had to be in like plus 400, 450 or something at least. So good stuff. Well, that sure made it look easy for you to watch that game. But Nevada's got the wide receivers out. Justin Lockhart's in the transfer portal. All kinds of guys. There's just no motivation for them. They're going to Detroit, Michigan. Forget it. I actually I think the 6.5. You're going to be able to get 6.5. I'll take it at 6.5. That's it. So we'll make a small play for a free play on that. But I mean, you don't want to really go past the 7 here, in my opinion. Anything can happen still on a bowl game. Some of the biggest line moves in bowl games, if you remember FAU versus SMU a couple years ago, ended up a complete blowout on the other side. I think it was when Lane Kiffin left FAU, and they still blew out SMU, and that line moved 10 points. And then the original side actually covered. It was like amazing. But be careful for that. Your money, you're managing your money here. And my power ratings have my power rankings, you throw them out because there's just so many players opting out. It really affects the other team's motivation as well. So moving on here, and I know you don't like anything else, but you said the 28th, and that's kind of where I'm getting into it a little bit too. You have Houston, Auburn, Louisville Air Force, Texas Tech, Mississippi State. You have NC State versus UCLA, and West Virginia versus Minnesota. In this batch of games, Chris, where do you want to go?
Yeah, I see a couple of fours out there with Minnesota against West Virginia, and I like the Gophers in this game. No Letty Brown for West Virginia, an offense that was hot and cold this year, even with him in the lineup. Now you take him out of the lineup against the Minnesota defense. Now I know they weren't playing the best of teams late in the year, but their defense played pretty well a majority of the year. You win that big rivalry game at the end of the year. Sorry, Kiev. But like PJ Fleck, you know that if they're playing in a bowl game, they are going to be all in. They are going to be buying in with Morgan coming back for another year, overcoming all of the injuries that they had at running back this year. I like Minnesota in this game. You can't get 4.5. I think I'd still play it at 4.5. But I know West Virginia, they did wind up beating Texas late in the year. They pulled it out against Kansas late in the year. But I think the way the two seasons went, I like the direction of Minnesota here, and I'm going to lay the points here with the Gophers.
I'm glad you said that because I just took this about an hour before you came on. I must have been thinking telepathically to you when you're on the your show with Steve or something. Maybe that's what happened. But I mean, I look at this game, and Minnesota's better than in every facet of the game, right? I mean, pretty much every single facet. And now that Minnesota is kind of coming off that big win against Wisconsin. No need to apologize because I bet with Minnesota, if you remember, I think you're on the show when we discussed that.
Yep.
And so that eases the pain when you do that. And
the happiness hedge.
Yeah, it's a happiness. And I would obviously, if Wisconsin won by 3, we'd all be happy. But we're okay here.
It's so funny. A buddy of mine, who is a big Georgia fan, said that he's made more free bets on Michigan money line than he might actually be rooting for Michigan to win the game.
Look at that. That's betting with emotion right there, my man. Something I never recommend, but I get it. If it's that big, I mean, that you're hedging your feelings, and that's it's like, hey man, am I going to be super happy about this win? Or am I just going to have to tough it out in Hawaii with a nice cocktail drink? Is it going to be that? So you can kind of look at it that way. But yeah, it's money line bet for that side is definitely going to be a lot bigger, and I can't wait to get into that game as well. So, but here's the thing about West Virginia. Every single facet, like I said, EPA margin 40th for Minnesota, 72nd for West Virginia. And Sagarin has the schedule a little bit harder for some reason. West Virginia ranking 25th and Minnesota 57th, but I'm not buying that. I think the Big 10 is better than the Big 12. And I've always thought that Oklahoma was a farce this year. You saw what happened to Oklahoma State. In my opinion, I think Minnesota had a little bit of a harder schedule, but you're looking at a spread under 7 here. And you're looking for a team that's been motivated. And PJ Fleck, let's not forget, Chris, 4-1 against the spread in bowls.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a great bowl coach. And if you want to just look at Minnesota's away ETS this year, 4-1 away, and West Virginia's 2-4 away.
Now, does what did they put down for the Western Michigan Wisconsin bowl game a couple of years ago? Because I don't know if they gave him a win for that or a loss for that, or what the number might have been. Because I know that was some crazy movement there. I know people that had Western Michigan that won. I know people that had Western Michigan that lost. I know people that had Western Michigan that pushed. So that was I'd be curious to see if whatever the resources that you use for that. What
you mean that backdoor touchdown to Corey Davis?
Yeah, that one.
I remember it well because I think I had Wisconsin -8, and I think it graded at 7. I think there was more money
Yeah.
that came in on Michigan, so they're giving them the win for that. But I had a bad line on that, and I remember pretty well, let's say. So yeah, that's they're going to give him that one. But you know what? That's the fight he has, and I love it. I put 3 stars on this one, so I totally agree with you. So I'm going to stick with this day because I want to talk about the First Responder Bowl, Air Force versus Louisville. Louisville minus 1.5. Totals 55.5. Now the whole thought process is, Louisville can't stop the run. Kentucky just ran all over them. But at the same time, this coach here, Scott Satterfield, for Appalachian State, he used to have to play Georgia Southern a lot, and he's beaten Georgia Southern. Now he hasn't always covered against them, but he knows how to play the option. He does. And I like going against option teams the first game of the year when the teams have had 2-3 weeks to get ready for them, and in bowl season when the teams has 2 or 3 weeks to get ready for them. Louisville's got a 0.3 net yards per play in a harder conference. I know the ACC isn't great, but they're not as bad as the Mountain West. I mean, Mountain West is still a step under them. And I look at the rushing yards. Malik Cunningham is been really pushing this team, 5.4 yards per rush. And that's even more than Air Force. I think Louisville wins this game, Chris.
Yeah, I certainly see that. And Steve made a pretty good case for the over in this game on our podcast earlier today, just talking about Air Force and their ability to run the ball, but in kind of saying the same thing, that Louisville certainly doesn't take a backseat to anybody either in terms of their offensive scheme and their ability to run the football as well. So I can totally, again, I think this is one of those numbers too that flipped. And anytime a number crosses 0 and goes the other way, like I see Air Force favored, like I kind of trust the opener a little bit more at times than I do with money moving it across to 0. So I can get on board there with Louisville and over.
Yeah, for sure. And Louisville, the over's not bad either. I mean, 55.5, you see what's been happening to some of these teams. I mean, these teams have no familiarity of how they play the game. So that doesn't benefit the defense. It's the same game theory as like in the NFL where a division, the second game of the division is always the one that goes under. It's the same thought process because these teams never see each other. So it usually leans more towards the over. And I think that's why you're getting a lot of these huge numbers, especially in MAC games, like you mentioned earlier. Well, let's move on to Wednesday, December 29th here. And you have Virginia versus SMU. You have Maryland, Virginia Tech. Lots of news came out in Virginia Tech, obviously, with Fuente gone and everything. And Iowa State, Clemson, and Oregon versus Oklahoma. Now, Chris, I'll start here, and I didn't make a play on this one yet, but I'm really leaning Iowa State here. I look at Clemson losing their coaches. This is still a 1-point spread here. It's kind of makes me scratch my head a little bit. Iowa State, Matt Campbell's just such a great motivator, and they show up in bowl games. You saw they showed up against Notre Dame a year or 2 back, whatever it was. I just think Clemson's always had that, I guess, playoff idea, right? DJ Uiagalelei was not that good this year. I mean, that kind of showed.
Kind way of putting it.
It's a kind way of putting it. Now, what I will say is Clemson's defense has gotten better, but Iowa State's played some good defenses this year, and the way they beat Oklahoma State at home, and just the fact that they're so capable. I mean, all these games that people lost money on Iowa State this year, Iowa State usually just outgained everybody. I think they're fine.
They found ways to lose games.
Exactly. They just found ways.
Don't mind me, Kiev. I'm just watching the 6th at Gulfstream here. I'm going to get beat at the wire. Yeah, it's okay. We had the 5. We just got beat. That's okay. So I'm not paying attention to you now. I'm sorry.
No, you keep watching the ponies here. I'll talk about football. Here's the thing. I didn't make the play yet, but I think I'm going to play Iowa State. What are your thoughts?
I like Iowa State.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought it up. And again, I think people, Brees Hall not playing, people are going to react to that. But I think Iowa State feels pretty good about their depth at the running back position. I think they feel like they have guys. Everyone else is playing. And it's a chance for Iowa State to beat a big name team. And on the flip side, again, it's a Clemson team that you lose both coordinators. I don't trust DJ Uiagalelei for the life of me against a good defense. You lose both your coordinators. Clemson is used to playing in college football playoff games, and now you're facing Iowa State, which, regardless of them being a good team, that just doesn't sound good. At least to a team that's used to playing for national championships. So yeah, I do like Iowa State in this game, and just find the best price you can, whether it's the +1 or a pick or whatever you can get the Cyclones at. Because I'm with you. I do like Iowa State. I got there on the Clones.
Well, fantastic. I'm glad you did, because that's where we're at here.
You know what I want to get as well? I want to get to Oregon on this day. I really want to get to Oregon.
Well, what's the line now?
It's 4.5. I'm going to wait and see how it goes, because I haven't heard one person really make a case for Oregon yet. I mean, Oklahoma has Bob Stoops as a coach, so at least they have some organization there. But I don't know. I think the way the season ended for Oregon was a real downer. I mean, I know they're going to have guys who aren't playing, but if this number starts to click up a little bit, I could certainly see myself being on Oregon. That's for sure.
Yeah, and this is one you got to wait to take. I think there's more things that can happen. Everybody left both teams. It's I call it the sadness bowl. Not the Alamo Bowl, the sad. I guess it was sad at the Alamo too. Didn't
yes, it was.
I mean, if Davy Crockett died there, it's got to be sad. But very sad once again. These two programs that kind of thought that they're the top programs. Their coaches leave. I was like, wait a minute, we're Oregon, and you're leaving me. And then same thing with Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley going, and they took their staff. I took under 61.5, Chris, and it took a while for that thing to move. I took it early because I thought it was safe. It was one of those I say, well, there's might be a few defensive opt-outs, but there's going to be a lot of offense. And when you have new coaches in there, they play a lot slower. That was mentality. It's like you have two different play callers. They're not going to be rushing to do anything. They're going to kind of play methodically is the way I looked at it. And now it's at 60. So it looks like the market is agreeing with me there, but I'll still give it out at 60, man. Yeah. I did play the under. So, it's going to be a rare under, because I'm not going to play a lot of unders, I don't think, Chris, unless the market goes nuts, which could always happen.
Bowl unders are not for the faint of heart.
They're certainly not. Anything else on that day? Virginia, Maryland.
No, I have a hard time with the two games at the baseball stadiums there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I get that, man. Chase Field, Pinstripe Bowl. Yep, Fenway, your backyard. You can go that. You can go.
No, I'll be in Miami. I'll be in Miami by then.
Oh,
that was our would you rather question on the podcast today at Stanford, Steve. Once we started talking it, we just kind of molded it together. Would you rather go to Fenway Park at an 11 a.m. kickoff with a 35-degree temperature and sit atop the monster for a college football game? Or would you rather go sit through Jets Jags this Sunday?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's tough. I have to pick the monster just for the situation. And I've never been there either.
Load up. I mean, you talk about like wind, total open air wind.
But I just got back from Michigan, so I might have thicker skin now.
All right. Yeah. Well, you definitely have thicker skin than me.
We'll wear some thermos like I was on my snowmobile. We'll do that. All right. Well, no, totally get that. That's a good would you rather question, because I mean, Jacksonville Jets, I would probably sit there and stare at my phone the whole time and look to make bets on real games.
I did say I did tell him Fenway, and the only reason I said Fenway initially was because it's an easier drive for me from my house than to get to Fenway than it is to getting to the Meadowlands and crossing over a bridge.
All right. Let's go. Let's move to the next day, Thursday, December 30th, 2021, the most important day of bowl games, because Wisconsin plays Arizona State in Las Vegas, and Pittsburgh versus Michigan State is a big game. Purdue versus Tennessee is very interesting. South Carolina versus North Carolina, not that interesting to me. But I got to tell you, man, I mean, everyone's like, "You're going to go to the Strip? You're going to go to the game?" I'm like, "No, I hate the Strip on New Year's freaking. Give me a way."
Talking about places that you really would never want to be.
Oh my God!
Too crowded, too expensive.
I know it's like that's more expensive than what do I like to say? That's more expensive than Vegas Club on New Year's Eve. I think that's what I like to say. It's just a total ripoff. It's like, no, I don't want to go. I'd rather go to the Rose Bowl or something. If Wisconsin was playing the Rose Bowl or something like that. That's that those kind of destinations when you get older and more grizzly, such as myself, is not what you're looking for in life. But
even though I will say this, that stadium is fantastic.
Yes,
they did it right. That place is of the new stadiums that have been out there. I have not been to SoFi yet, so that's full disclosure. But compare Allegiant to Atlanta. I mean, it's not even a comparison.
I hear and I haven't been there, but I've heard so many. Like, one of my friends went to the UNLV game there, and that was a great way to get to the stadium because the freaking ticket's $50 instead of $500 for the rate NFL. It's like, yeah, I go to the college game there, and obviously this bowl game with Wisconsin fans and ASU only 5 hours away. They're going there. So it's going to be plenty of money for that ticket, but I heard great things about it as well. So for me, I mean, I played Michigan State, Chris, and I think I had a pretty good number. It's at 2.5 minus 117 now, but has Pickett officially opted out of this game?
Yes.
Okay. I thought he did.
Yeah, he and Walker are both out.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so many, and there's other guys for Pittsburgh are opting out. Michigan State, when a running back opts out, it doesn't bug me as much.
No, it doesn't bother me as much either.
Yeah, because you have the offensive line. It's about scheme. The next guy that comes in always does great. It's really about that. And I think running backs can be a little bit overrated, but I mean, Michigan State in this situation is the team that's still hungry here, while Pittsburgh is losing guys. So I played them at Pick'em, and I'd play them up to 3. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I still might play. I like the over in this game initially, and I think I'm going to play the over. I'm glad I didn't make the play early because the news about Pickett and Walker opting out has caused this total to drop to 56.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think Michigan State's pass defense is terrible. Addison's playing. I would still expect Pitt to be able to have some success in perfect indoor conditions, and Michigan State can still, I think, have some success on the ground as well.
All right,
but even without Walker. So yeah, I'm going to wind up playing over 56 here, just because of the headliners are out, but I don't think that's necessarily going to mean the game is going to be low scoring. North Carolina at 9.5 seems a little high for me. I know Sam Howell is expected to play, but I can see South Carolina using the momentum of this, of their recent recruiting classes, of the recent transfer portal success, some of the overachieving this year. It's been a down, miserable year for North Carolina. Maybe Mac will be able to spin it somehow as to be ready to get these guys motivated to play. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd be wanting to lay 9.5 here with Tar Heels.
No, that's too much for a team that, as a favorite, has looked really bad this year. And as a dog, they really kind of came back in some games, including the Pitt game, but they lost it in overtime, which didn't cover. But you have to remember that they did come back. But as a favorite of getting this big, South Carolina is going to be more motivated here. I mean, even though Sam Howell's suiting up, I think it's more or less the team knows that he's doing it to try to get his draft stock better. South Carolina is kind of coming in. They have nothing to lose because they didn't have any big expectations. North Carolina had massive expectations.
Conference championship expectations this year. I mean, it was the year to strike because Clemson was down, and I picked North Carolina to win the ACC mainly because I thought Clemson would potentially be vulnerable this year, and I just chose the wrong team on the wrong side of the bracket and on the wrong side of the league to win the title. So again, right idea, right handicap to beat the favorite, but just wind up on the wrong team to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And now this is a juiced -9. I think you might get a 10 if you wait it out. I mean, this is December 30th. You still have 8 days from now. So definitely wait on this. I think you might get a lot
Agreed.
of play on North Carolina that day. Everyone's, bumming around. Now, here's the Wisconsin thought. I keep remembering on how good their defense is and how they show up on bowl games. Arizona State's kind of a tricky team because I'm not sure if Wisconsin has experience stopping a rushing quarterback like Jaden Daniels. So, and that's just my thoughts. I didn't get into the handicap of this game, but I lean Wisconsin at -6.5. I think you're looking at a kind of like a big brute team against a Pac-12 team. So I don't know. Do you think the spread's right?
It's right. Yeah, I think it's right. It was interesting. I remember initially seeing this line listed incorrectly. I'm like, wait a minute, Arizona State's favor? That can't be. And then I'm like, no, wait, I had to take like a pause. I'm like, no, that can't be right. I'd stay away from this game just because I do think ultimately you do have a pretty bad offense in Wisconsin, especially at the quarterback position. But again, what are you going to get out of Arizona State? You would think Herm would have these guys ready to play, but if they don't, then it could be a feast for Jimmy Leonard. I would trust Jimmy Leonard to be able to shut down. You said trouble stopping a running quarterback. I would have confidence in Jimmy Leonard being able to figure something out. It's a low total, man. I was going to say under would be potentially a way to go, but I don't know if I could do under 41.5, under 42.
Ugh. One interception, that's gone. And that's what, how the Notre Dame game went.
That's exactly the problem. You got turnover prone teams.
Very turnover prone, especially in a game where they're going to be looser, God, I'm almost talking myself in an over here. My power number is 5.5.
Wisconsin over. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. 5.5 is my number. So I just looked at my power number on it. So yeah, I'm very close to the spread too. Well, let's move on to the New Year's games, New Year's Eve, that is. And I think we have some playoffs happening here, Chris. What do you think? Wow. Georgia, Michigan, 7.5. You have Alabama, Cincinnati, 13.5. You have Boise State, Central Michigan, plus 7.5 for Central Michigan. That one smells weird. And my Washington State, Miami. And you and I briefly texted about Washington State. I think we might be playing that, but I'm not sure if your thoughts have changed.
Yeah, I mean, Miami's got some COVID issues right now. It's not as bad as what happened at A&M, causing the game to be canceled. But I just can't see how Miami's going to be prepared for this game with everything that's gone on there the last 3 weeks or so. And you got Wazoo, who played for their interim head coach to get him the job. And I think Wazoo is clearly the more motivated team here. And I could see Miami ready to just kind of lick the stamp and just end this season and move on to spring practice and start anew with Mario Cristobal and staff then. So you can still get 1.5 out there, I think. I'm looking at MGM. I see 1.5.
Okay.
And I see a 1 at Caesars. Pick them elsewhere, but you can still find Wazoo as an underdog in a couple spots.
Yeah, definitely shop that around. I like Wazoo too. I was just waiting to see if COVID pops up. Like this is one I wasn't rushing into, but I don't think the line's going to move much until 2-3 days beforehand. So that's probably when I'm going to bet Wazoo. So I have a complete agreement with you. And Wazoo turned out better than we thought, Chris. Mm-hmm. Both you and I thought down on them pretty early. Then I told you I was taking them on the Apple Cup, and it was a nice win, man. I was happy.
We're happy to see them win that game.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. Okay, well, that one's covered. I mean, Wazoo, the more motivated team, and Miami did this before against Louisiana Tech, if you remember, a couple of years ago.
It's so funny. Miami's history in El Paso, by the way, is not great. This is the third time they've been in the Sun Bowl, and they've been there with an interim head coach every single time, and every single time they've lost and had a kind of a lackluster effort. So I can see them not really showing up.
Their new quarterback seems pretty motivated, though.
Well, Van Dyke is a stud.
Yeah, I think he's good. He's gonna get better too, but he lost his coach, so he's probably
Yes.
Yeah. I think he's already going to get the starting position there anyway. Oh no, Cristobal coming in there. Yeah, I think he's
Van Dyke will be the starter next year. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say so. So
he'll be one of the best. I actually saw him listed as like one of the. I don't know what site it was that tweeted it out, but they had him listed as one of the early Heisman. It might have been like they listed like top 6 or 8 odds for next year to win the Heisman, and he was on that list, which it was good to see as a Miami alum.
Oh, for sure. I'm glad he was on that list. That's awesome. And he deserved it. I could not believe he was better than the other guy. I forgot his name.
King. Yeah, it's a shame because King got hurt and he hurt himself again in the opener against Alabama and was never really right. So
he's probably done. I don't think
his college career will be over, and he unfortunately suffered a couple of injuries, but he had an unbelievable year last year and really helped Miami, and was happy to see him come back despite the injuries. So best of luck to him in the future.
Yes, definitely. Central Michigan plus 7.5. Man, my power ratings don't actually kind of more close to 10, but something tells me I like Central Michigan a lot more, the way they finished the season and stuff like that. I didn't bet anything here. Did you look at that one at all?
No, I did not.
Okay. Well, let's get into the playoffs then. And I got to give a lot of props to, well, the market and the lines makers, because, I mean, this was like 14 for a minute, this Cincinnati one, and then it's at 13.5. That's not a lot of movement, you know. The Michigan was 8 pretty much the first day. I mean, the first day after it happened, you had look ahead somewhere if you want to look hard. And then it's 7.5 now. I mean, it seems like it was spot on, Chris. What do you think?
Well, I think I actually spoke to a couple of odds makers out in Vegas, and they actually have Alabama lower than the number that they posted. They basically know that people are going to bet Alabama, and they just put it up there and hung it under 14, and they're comfortable going into this game needing Cincinnati, which I was a little surprised with. So that certainly leads me to believe that Cincinnati might be the right side here. You've got an Alabama offense without Mechie. I'm assuming their running backs will be healthier than they were a couple of weeks ago in the SEC championship game. How will the receivers replacing Mechie do? Cincinnati, the strength of their defense is in the secondary. So, I mean, I think if you look on paper, there are matchups that you can talk yourself into taking Cincinnati plus the 13.5. But at the same time, it's one of those bets that you could take Cincinnati at 13.5, and you could be sitting there at the end of the first quarter absolutely hitting yourself. So
turn it off.
Yeah, but if I were to play this right now, I would think under would be the way to go, because Cincinnati's not scoring points. I think they're going to have a hell of a time trying to block Anderson in that Alabama front. So of every possible play I can make in this game, under would be my number one play in this game, and then Cincinnati plus the points would be number 2.
Okay, well, good. It's interesting for you to say, because you've always backed Alabama throughout the years, and they're a little different this year because they played down to their competition. Chris, they did at Florida for sure. They could have lost that game, and we found out that Florida's not that good. I mean, compared to what expectations were. I had them a top 10 team for a long time, right?
The Auburn game, they should have. Bigsby stays in bounds. They lose at Auburn.
Exactly. They lose at Auburn there if he stays in bounds. I could not believe he did that. It reminded me of when the Bears did that in the playoffs. I mean, in the NFL, it's just like, what? It's like, don't try for the extra yard if you have to go around, because that guy's going to throw out. That's what he did. Threw him out. Ridiculous. And then, you'd see a different playoffs there, but Cincinnati would still be in. And obviously, the LSU game was even in Tuscaloosa. And I was like, LSU could win this. What is going on? They couldn't move the ball at the end. I mean, Alabama, their defense got better at the end. They did. But, and it showed against Georgia. It showed against LSU. It showed against a couple other teams. But Cincinnati, metrically, it is great. 0.6 yard per play advantage, or positive 2.6. But of course, the strength of schedule is massively different. It's
Right.
in Cincinnati's 86 and Alabama's like second. I mean, it's massively different, massive different conferences. But what I do know is that Cincinnati and these kids matched up against Georgia last year. And it's not like Georgia was extremely motivated last year, Chris. I didn't think maybe they were, but at the same time, they had to get motivated during the game, and Cincinnati hung with them, and they blew that game. Cincinnati blew it. So the kids already know what they're dealing with in that way. So I did take the 14. And I don't know if it gets to 14 again. I think it would on game day, but I'm comfortable at it too, just like the odds makers. And my number is more like 8.5, 9. So maybe I'm the same as the odds makers.
Yeah. So yes, yeah. The guy who he told me, he said he had a 10.
Okay, there you go. So I'm very close to them. That's good. And we'll ride with that. I'm always for the underdog anyway. So, but it's just like you said, first quarter, I might be putting on some.
That's the thing. Exactly. It's one of those games where you could feel really bad about. Well, that was it seemed like it was a good idea to bet against Nick Saban and Alabama in a college football playoff semifinal as it's 14-0 heading to the second quarter.
Well, I'll tell you this game's before the Georgia-Michigan game, and if Alabama blows them out, it's certainly going to make me worry about Michigan in this situation too, because, I mean, Georgia, you thought was the best team. I still have the best team in my power ratings by a smidge over Alabama. It goes Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, as you know. But Michigan, I mean, they really made a good argument for themselves, and I'm happy for Harbaugh and everything he did. But in this situation, I don't know the separation, Chris. I don't know the separation between the Big Ten and the SEC from the top. You have Michigan, Ohio State, and then you have Georgia and Alabama. Is it closer than you think? And that's been the perception. We're not sure what it is. And I'm not saying that Michigan is even as good as Ohio State. If they played in a dome, I'd have Ohio State favored. Mm-hmm. But Michigan's got some grit. And one thing I know about Georgia is that, I mean, the quarterback, he isn't like the take you over the top quarterback. And you saw what happened with Alabama. It makes me worried that if Michigan can screw things up for him a little bit, they can hang in this game. So I'm going to give you a lean to Michigan here.
Yeah, that was one of the my comment about Stetson Bennett following the SEC championship game was all of the following can be true. Bryce Young, Alabama won because it had the better quarterback. Stetson Bennett wasn't the reason Georgia lost, but once Georgia fell behind, Stetson Bennett was the reason Georgia couldn't come back. So like all of those can be true. You hit on how this number like hasn't moved, and it's been all Michigan money, and the fact that the number hasn't moved, and it seems like they are invited. Like it felt like they were comfortable with the Alabama position. It feels like they're comfortable with the Michigan position here. Mm-hmm. Again, it's not a game that I want to get too heavily involved in right now because of the Georgia COVID issues. Again, we're still 9 days out from the game, so I would assume everybody's going to be okay, but you just don't know. I would think that the Georgia defense will have a much easier time with Michigan and their inability really to throw the ball downfield. I would expect a lot more play action, first down throws from McNamara and the Michigan offense, but I still think Michigan's gonna have a hard time scoring points, especially if it turns into a situation where they absolutely can't run and they have to rely on throwing the ball.
Yeah,
I would lean towards Georgia in this game minus the 7.5.
Well, if they get one-dimensional, that's exactly going to play into their hands. The good thing with Alabama is that Bryce Young pretty much won that game. He became a Superman. Mm-hmm. He won the Heisman that day for sure. He might have had it before that, but he christened it that game. I mean, and Michigan doesn't have the quarterback like that. Now, these teams are very Georgia's number 1 in EPA margin. Michigan's number 6, believe it or not. So Michigan's not that far as EPA margins behind. Alabama got better as the season progressed. Very interesting. I hope we do see a close game. So it's all, yeah. And you can't say Georgia didn't face some adversities. Tennessee jumped them 7-0. It didn't scare them, right? It didn't stop them. Wasn't that at Tennessee?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, there you go. I mean, so they face some adversity too. So this is an interesting game. My numbers don't agree with the 8. It's more like 6. But I'm going to lean to Michigan and see what happens. And I do have a question. What if Stetson Bennett gets COVID, or JT Daniels, or both, or Michigan? I mean, what do you do if a big quarterback, Bryce Young, gets it? What would they do? Would they postpone it a couple days?
No. If you've got enough players to be able to play, then you play. But if it's not a postpone it. They actually just announced today that if can't play, it's a forfeit, and the other team will advance.
That is just insane. Yeah. So obviously some quarterback's COVID, the coach. I mean, you don't want to think like this, but you'd be like, you guys all better be sick tomorrow with something, right?
Enter George Pickens to run the Wildcat.
There you go. But that's a huge element to all these games. I think it's good that we talked about it. No, great thoughts there. Let's move on to January 1st, then New Year's Day bowls, and quite a few of them. Arkansas, Penn State's interesting at pick. Oklahoma State, Notre Dame. Notre Dame is -2. Kentucky, Iowa +3. Real interesting game there too. Utah, Ohio State -6.5. That's been stuck at -6.5 for a while. A little Utah money came in, and then Baylor versus Ole Miss, close to pick 'em. I love this day because not only one spreads over 6, and the rest of them are 3 or under. I think it's gonna be a fun day of football, man.
No, that's a great point. That's something that we've been lacking for a while. I did like Arkansas initially, but the numbers move too much now for me to play it. At +3, I liked it. I don't like it at picker +1, like it is in the majority of places now. I could get behind Oklahoma State at +2 potentially. I'm definitely under in that game. I don't think either team is going to be able to score very many points. I think both offenses will have trouble, especially with Kyrie Williams being out of the game for the Irish, and you've got Hamilton being out too. That kind of bothers me a little bit that these players they go to bat and no, we want Marcus Freeman as our head coach. He's the guy. Okay, well, he's the guy, and then we're not going to play the bowl game. So that kind of bothered me a little bit. Like if he's your coach, if he's the guy you want as head coach, don't you want to go out there and give him a New Year's 6 bowl win?
The same guys that opted out said that.
Well, I'm just saying, in general, as a team, like he was the guy that everyone kind of backed, and then you have your best offensive player and probably your best defensive player kind of opt out. So I don't want to say they were the ones that said it, but just kind of you would think if the team was all gung ho and getting behind Marcus Freeman as the head coach, you would think that they all would kind of be in it together. But it's okay. We'll see what happens. But I don't think this will be a very, very high scoring game. And I could even get behind Oklahoma State in this game as well. For if you can get to, I would potentially look at that.
Well, and Cohen's going to be quarterback. Oklahoma State is number 4 in standard down sack rate, number 1 in straight sack rate, 12%. That's a lot. And that's how to get to Notre Dame. And Wisconsin was doing it for a while until they threw the ball and turned it over. Special teams touchdown happened. That game was like nothing. And I'm not getting on that to complain. I'm just trying to draw a pathway.
You mean 3 fourth quarter non-offensive touchdowns isn't normal?
No. Anyways,
that's the thing. I still don't know how good Notre Dame is. That's the thing. Like,
right.
How good really are they? They didn't beat a single team that finished the year ranked.
Yeah. They were pretty good at the end. They fixed some stuff up. I mean, since the Toledo game, right? Florida State, Toledo, those games were terrible. And then, they kind of just willed their way to win against some very overrated teams, including Wisconsin. So, but Oklahoma State,
North Carolina, USC.
Yeah. And Gundy's 9-6 against the spread, 9 for 6 in bowl games, which is pretty good. Okay. Playing a coach that's never been a head coach. Yeah. You have some opt-outs for Notre Dame, like you mentioned. I'm going to lean Oklahoma State with you on that one. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I lean Penn State at pick, just to let you know. I didn't make a play on this one either. You're kind of on the Arkansas side. I lean Penn State just because
of Pittman stuff bothered me a little bit, just with the rumor that with the Jimmy Sexton stuff about a new contract or whatever. That kind of bothered me a little bit. So I've kind of cooled on Arkansas a little bit.
Right. Yeah, you absolutely agree. Now, Kentucky, Iowa is real interesting. I mean, the way Iowa finished the season, and this total's 44, the spread is 3. Why is this spread 3? I mean, Kentucky blew out Louisville. They're a good SEC team, not a great one, but a good SEC team. They beat Florida. They showed up in a lot of games. And then this is a 3-point spread. What the hell's going on? Well, I'll tell you, it's a smelly line. And Kirk Ferentz is a fantastic bowl coach. 10-5 against the spread. If you don't include 2001 and 2002, this one only goes back to 2003. But 10-5, and Iowa does that, man. For some reason they show up big time in bowl games. Now, Kentucky's bread and butter is getting the running game going. And Iowa's deep offense, I even hate to say, is probably worse than Wisconsin's lately. Yeah. But man, this spread has me scratching my head, Chris, and it almost makes me want to take Iowa. What are any thoughts?
Yeah, Iowa would be the side that I would play here, just because of you look. I think you look at the way the season ended there for Iowa. People are just kind of realizing Iowa, it was nowhere near as good of a team as what they were early on, and it finally caught up on them once the turnover genie dried up on them. But yeah, I don't know if Kentucky should be a field goal favorite over Iowa in this game. They're kind of two mirror image type of teams where both are going to look to run the ball, and I don't think Kentucky's going to be able to control the line of scrimmage like they did against a few of those lower echelon SEC teams.
Yeah, that's what they did, really. Nice, obviously, final 3 games, but they're against cake teams, except Louisville, I guess. I mean, Vanderbilt and
that Louisville
defense State.
Special.
I watched that Tennessee game, and they were the better team, but they couldn't get the win.
Yep, I had them that day.
I did too. I bet them at half. I bet Kentucky at the half. I'm like, they have more yards. They just kept screwing up. It was really head scratching to me. I will say that they did stand up to Georgia minus Alabama, probably as good as anybody else, really. But they lost to Mississippi State. LSU was in shambles when they played LSU, only beating South Carolina by 6 when South Carolina was early this year, only beat Missouri by 7. There's some issues there as well. Is anybody opted out for this? I didn't look at that yet.
I've not heard of anybody being out, no.
Yeah, I don't hear of Iowa center, just Linderbaum. Okay, so
Linderbaum is not playing?
Yeah, he's no, he's in suit up. Okay, I'm reading right now.
That would surprise me if he did not play.
Tyler Goodson is the one that's skipping.
Running back. Okay.
So that's okay.
That's Iowa. That's a plug and play position.
Okay. So here's what's going to happen here, Chris. Everyone's going to think of this Iowa offense and how bad it is and how they can't score. And then there's going to be more money coming on Kentucky. Is it going to go enough past the 3 where you can push the sharper bettors out of the way? I don't know.
Yeah. I think that might hold true to 3.
Okay. Well, I'm going to watch because I have no reason to rush into.
I don't think it's going to go to 2.5. I think it. I mean, the move it's been climbing from 2.5 to 3, and there are a couple of 2.5s out there that will probably hit 3. I don't think it's going to come back to 2.5.
Okay. Well, let's quick talk the Rose Bowl before we predict our national champion. Utah, Ohio State, 6.5 point spread. It won't get to 7. Now, obviously, if you erase the Michigan game and pretend playoffs didn't exist, this would be a bigger spread. And Ohio State is minus 6.5. Utah has been amazing this year since that ugly San Diego State loss, man. What the, and I go back to the BYU game too. It's like, I kept watching this Utah team. I'm like, they have to be better than this, but they switched the quarterback and the quarterback got better. So I'm thinking to myself, gosh, and now in the trenches, they're dominating. They dominated Oregon a lot in the trenches. That was part of it, Chris. I was wrong on that Oregon bet, and I'm glad that I took the under in the Pac-12 championship and stayed away from the side because I would have took Oregon again. But I will say Utah was good in the trenches. So what is your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's right now it's a stay away for me just because I just don't know if Olave and Wilson are going to wind up playing for Ohio State. If they do, that's a great matchup for Ohio State with those guys. Their receiving core is deep enough to begin with, and with Trevor Henderson at running back, I mean, it's still an offense that I think is going to score points. I guess it just depends on your opinion of Utah and the Pac-12. Yes, Oregon did beat Ohio State earlier in the year, and people I think are going to play that natural. Oh well, Utah beat Oregon, and Oregon beat Ohio State. So that's dangerous, though, to do that. I guess it's just going to base on your opinion of Utah, and are they going to be able to do the things running the football and at the line of scrimmage that they were against Oregon, against Ohio State? We saw Michigan have success on the line of scrimmage. Can Ohio State get that figured out? Do they need to get it figured out, or are they just better and more talented than the Utah front? That is basically the game in a nutshell. If you like Utah up front and you think Ohio State on the defensive line is weak, and you think that Thomas and that Utah team will be able to run the ball up and down the field on Ohio State, then Utah is a super live dog. If you don't, and you think Utah is getting a little bit too much love and a little bit too trendy of a dog, then Ohio State at less than 7 would be a side that you'd want to be on. But 9 days out right now, I'm going to still kind of wait and see if we have any off the field news.
And I'll tell you this: if Michigan gets destroyed by Georgia, double-digit loss or more, or you know what I'm saying, then maybe you're starting to think Utah. You know what's funny about this whole Ohio State schedule is if I just put my hand over the Michigan State game, I mean, beating teams like Indiana in a rainstorm, big deal. Penn State was keeping up with them. I think Penn State had almost as many yards as them. Rutgers, Maryland, terrible teams. Tulsa actually scored some points against them.
So the fourth quarter, they finally pulled away.
They lost to Oregon. That Minnesota game, they should have lost that game. They got some really kind penalties that game. I'm not sure. I'm not bought into Ohio State 100% here, and it's the trenches for me. So I think I'll make my decision watching Michigan. Maybe I'll make a
and that sometimes is the best thing to do. Wait it out and see, and get as much information as you possibly can.
Hell, you can make a somewhat of a decision. Penn State, Arkansas, just a little bit. You know, you can kind of see what Penn State's really all about. And I know they're going to be motivated with Franklin there. Franklin gets a lot of rumors, and it's his own fault that he does that. But it's just people love talking about him, and it's
unbelievable. It really is unbelievable.
It is, and he likes to use those rumors and say, "Well, screw these people," and he'll go to his team, and it motivates him. It freaking works. It freaking works, man. National championship. Who's winning it?
I'm going to go with Georgia. I think. Again, I think they'll be with no Mechie, assuming both favorites do win. I would think Georgia will be able to help fix some things that they did or didn't do in the first meeting. Although there's part of me that has a great bit of concern what's going to happen at the quarterback position. I want to say Georgia will win the game and win the national championship, but it's a tough call. I mean, what do you think? That number will probably be what? Pick 'em, probably. Maybe Alabama won.
It depends on how they finish their opponents. Let's just say they win by the spread is probably the best thing, that the way you can predict it. I would say Alabama -2. And the reason that is because what you just saw in you have the way better coach. Yeah. And so my brain says Alabama. I'm going to pick Alabama because I'd feel real stupid if they destroy Georgia and then we're just here again. Right.
There are just some matchups and some teams that you can't get over the hurdle. And this just might be one of them.
Now my heart says Cincinnati. Don't get me wrong, Bearcat fans.
Don't listen to your heart.
Don't listen to your heart.
Don't listen to your heart. I'm going to try and save you a few bucks by saying don't listen to your heart.
Definitely save a few bucks. Kansas State line flipped to -3.5, but I did take them at pick 'em. So, or no, I took them at +1 actually a long time ago. So,
Yeah, I can't imagine LSU offering up much in this game.
no, yeah, if I had to lean this game, it's -3.5, my man. Well, Chris, it's been a wonderful year. Really, really want to thank you for coming on the show a few times. I know you're a very busy man talking about cheese with me. Putting up with all my texts and bullshit. So, want
All
to
right.
want to wish you a Merry Christmas to you and your family and your little dog you got with you there, and hopefully you have a wonderful time traveling and enjoying all these games. And I really look forward to recapping with you afterwards and
Totally.
talking some maybe a little basketball, but definitely
basketball, golf, horse racing. Absolutely.
we got the horse racing. That's what we always have in the spring, my man. So
yes, sir. You, me, and Marco. Let's do it.
Oh, can't wait. We will get the boys back together. Thank you so much for coming on and talking.
You're welcome, bud.
We'll be texting soon.
Merry Christmas, everyone.